Hi there and welcome. Welcome to Leadershipisation, all things leadership. I'm going to start today by saying something that might feel just a little bit uncomfortable for you. However, it's actually really important. So listen up. This is why I've put it right early at the beginning of today's Leadershipisation, all things leadership. So think on this. If you don't trust your team, it's probably not because they're incapable. It's actually much more likely because you trusting them would require you to change something. How you lead, how you communicate, how you see your role, how you relate to risk, and a number of other things. So today's leadershipisation, all things leadership, isn't about fixing the team. It's actually about you starting to notice when your leadership might be holding the reins so tightly, holding everything back and identifying what that's costing everyone, including you. So if this is something that would resonate with you, please join us. My name is Beth Bergen. I'm a global leadership and communication coach, and my jam is to build influential leaders. I work with executives and managers and business owners, and we focus on leadership and communication. Today, I've got 5 talking points and 2 practical tools to share with you. So the first one of these talking points is this. When we don't yet trust our team, we make up stories. In our leadership role, we make up stories so we don't need to acknowledge the lack of trust. Yeah, that's the first point. We make those stories up because a leader is rarely going to say, "Oh, I don't trust my team." They're much more likely to say something like, "Oh, my team just isn't ready for this yet. They're not ready to do it by themselves. Yeah, that person, like they're a bit overwhelmed. So I actually need to stay nice and close so that they don't get totally overwhelmed." Or they may be saying something like, "It's actually quicker to do it myself. So that's just what I'm doing." Does that sound like you? Maybe it does. Maybe it does. And the thing is that those stories that have been made up about not ready yet, too overwhelmed, I need to stay close, those are not facts quite often. They're based on your interpretation. And as the leader, if you're in a space where you don't trust them yet, what's happening is that this is coming from fear. It's coming from your own habit where you can't step back right now, where you're not willing to let go. And your habit is just to keep on hanging on. It's coming from the space of your leadership identity. Now, the really interesting thing is that if you're unable to say, "I don't trust my team yet," you're likely not going to be able to change that, because what we don't name, we can't actually change. Be aware, making up stories gets in the way of you actually acknowledging that you don't trust your team. So examine to see how many of those stories you've got playing. The second point I want to talk to today is this. control becomes like a self-protection default. When we're focused on control, what that does for us as a leader is it reduces our uncertainty. That control, it's all about us. Because when we hover, when we're double checking, when we're getting rework to be done and, then done again and then undone sometimes, that's all about your comfort. That's all about you as the leader. That helps you feel in control. And while that might be useful for you, it actually is not useful at all for your team. Why not? Well, because the team is not able to grow into that environment, into the hovering, into the rework, into the checking and rechecking of things. So what's actually underneath all of that? And this is why the talking point is control becomes our self-protection, default. Underneath all of that is a lack of trust. So it's much more likely that this control that you're intent on is driven by a fear of failure, or maybe it's a fear of being blamed, or maybe you're concerned that if you let go of control, then you're going to lose some relevance. Maybe it's that you think you're going to lose and you fear losing authority. The reality here is that as a leader, you're never going to be able to deepen trust with your team until you're able to acknowledge where this fear or where this control, this need for control is driven from, which fear it is, so that you can then do some self-reflection and become much more self-aware of exactly what's driving that need for control. So this is you work, not your team necessarily doing the work. So the third key point is this. Your team most likely feels your distrust. Now, often when I challenge my coaching clients about this, they'll go, oh, don't be ridiculous. Like, I'm perfectly normal with them all the time. There's no way they'll be feeling it. The crazy thing is, there's no need to tell them because they sense it. They sense it because it shows up in a number of different ways. It shows up with reduced opportunities for them. It shows up when everything is all about compliance. It shows up when you don't give them opportunities to show their own initiative. It shows up when they don't have any real ownership of the tasks. And what they then proceed to do is they wait, they don't step forward. They just do what they have to do. They don't get excited. They don't have ownership because the team performs to the level of the trust that it's given. The more trust you can give it, the further back you can step, the more likely your team is to be high performing. You want a mediocre team? You get in there, you hover, you control, you get them to do work and rework. You demonstrate in all those ways that you don't trust them, and your team will play small. The fourth talking point is this. Your own identity and confidence can block the trust. Your own confidence and identity can block the trust. So, maybe you got the job that you've got right now. Maybe you got that because of your ability to get things done. Yeah, that's awesome. Well done. So you're driven. So you're driven to get things done, or you do them yourself. Yeah, you drive the others or you do it yourself. A new job means that you need to let go of control. And that can be really scary, really scary. Oh, everybody could see what I was doing before, and now maybe I'm losing some value to the organization. They can still see what your team is doing and how you're leading it. Maybe you're scared about losing relevance. There are things that you can do to make sure that you remain visible and relevant in your organization from this new role of leading, because you've moved up to a higher level. Maybe you're a bit scared about losing your safety net. What got you here to this role needs to change. And it needs to change for two reasons. One is for your team, so that they have the best possible experience and the best possible opportunities. But it also needs to change for you, so that you're not tightly wound all the time thinking, if I don't do this, no one else is going to do it. What's important is that trusting others allows you to redefine your own work and your own worth. You're no longer doing all of the doing. You're not doing everything. You're now owning decisions instead of necessarily only implementing them. You're now developing processes, not necessarily using those processes. And your world and your opportunities are actually bigger and bigger, not smaller and tighter. You get to step back. You get to actually enjoy the role and start to build your confidence and your identity in this new role. And as soon as you start to do that and you step back, you'll start to build that trust that you have in your team, because you're letting them do the things they need to be doing. You're not in there feeling like you have to do everything. Okay, number 5, less control and a higher risk tolerance equals trust growth. The trust will grow the less control you can have and the higher tolerance for risk that you can have. Look, there are actually no perfect conditions for trust. You need to establish a framework that allows others to make mistakes, that allows those mistakes to be lessons, that allows others to make decisions. And really importantly, you've got to resist the urge to step in just in case. Oh, here I am, just in case you need me. Because every single time we do that, not only as a leader are we demonstrating our lack of trust, we're disempowering our team. And what we're teaching them is, when things get a bit tricky, we will sail in. Now, doing this, allowing others to make decisions, stepping back, allowing people to learn from their mistakes, and creating an environment where it's okay to make mistakes and learn from them, all of that takes emotional courage. There's no special techniques. There's lots of tools that you can use, but there's no number one special technique. Quite simply, it comes down to you, because this work is on you as the leader. This work is about you trusting yourself to trust your team. It's about giving yourself permission to trust your team and letting go of that fear. A lot of work from your perspective. Yeah. So let me share now 2 practical tools with you. The first tool is this one. It's what I call the trust transfer trial. So we're going to have a go at transferring the trust, yeah? First thing to do is to pick one responsibility and one person in a team. Or if it suits you better, the entire team will have that responsibility. But this is one responsibility. So what you need to do is you need to be really clear about what the outcomes are. So you've got to clarify those, because if they're clear, you're going to be able to measure them. And if you can measure them, it's easier for you to hold people accountable. Do not set someone up to fail in this case. Yeah, that's really important for you to remind yourself about that and for me to remind you of that. So the first thing is clarify those outcomes really clearly. Next thing is to agree on the decision boundaries. What do I mean by this? This is when they can make their own decisions, either the individual or the team. When the decisions get to this level, that's when you need to involve me. Stretch them out of it. Get yourself uncomfortable with this a little bit, because the third step is to step back fully and hand it over. Now, this isn't about chucking it at them and running. That wouldn't be okay. This is actually about having those conversations. Here's what I need. This is what's happening. This is how we're doing it today. Yeah, this is what I need you to do. And here are the boundaries. And then what I want you to do, once you've transferred that trust, I want you to observe your own reactions. Do that throughout the whole process. As I said before, this isn't about setting them up to fail. So I want you to observe your reactions and not just their performance. Because it's really easy if we're coming from that place of fear and control that I was talking about earlier, we're going to notice all the things that they are doing wrong rather than the things that they might be doing right. So once you've trialed this and you've identified, okay, these are my reactions, this is how I need to manage them, because we talk about that a lot in leadership intelligence, what you're then going to do is rinse and repeat this and hand over more things. Because this is actually what leadership is all about. This is one of the secrets of leadership, is being able to clarify these things, agree on the boundaries, hand it over, leave them to it. Now, obviously, people will be going, I don't know if I can do this. One of the things that would sit there in a boundary, or perhaps might even be in the outcomes that you're looking for, is how and when you want to be communicated with about their progress. Okay, so try that, the trust transfer trial. The second tool that I want to share with you is this one. It looks at, or what I call this is, why am I holding this? And this is one of those powerful pauses where you use self-reflection just to help you with your own learnings and your own self-awareness. And as we know, self-awareness is the driver of so many of our behaviors as a leader. So each time you feel the urge to step in, I want you to ask yourself, am I doing this because it's necessary or because it makes me feel safe? Now, that's a pretty hairy question. That digs down pretty deep. Am I doing this because it's necessary or because it makes me feel safe? Like, I don't want them to make a mistake. I don't want that to reflect on me. So I'm just going to jump in. Now, what I said then just answered the second part of this pause, which is, what discomfort am I trying to avoid right now? Like, if I jump in, then maybe they won't make that mistake I think they're going to make. And no one will be able to say to me, your team isn't doing this right. As a leader, you need to be prepared to back your team and argue for your team, or talk up your team in senior management meetings. Pretty hard to do that if you don't trust them, because maybe what you end up doing is making excuses. What I love about this second tool, the why am I holding on to this pause, is that awareness is the first release of that control. Once you're aware of it, it's easier for you to let it go. Okay, so I've given you those two tools there. Finally, or next to finally, almost finally, some reflection questions. I've got two again for you today. First one is this: why might my need of control, I'll start again. Where might my need for control be protecting me rather than serving my team? So this is all about you reflecting on, what is it? What's driving my need for control? And what I've told you before is that come up with those first answers. You might want to write them down or clear them out of your brain, but then ask yourself, and what else? Because maybe the real answer is 2 or 3 layers down. Yeah? The second question is this one: what would I have to let go of to trust more fully? What would I have to let go of to trust more fully? Now, this might be part of your identity as the person who does everything all the time, who's go, go, go. It might be your own need for certainty. I need to know exactly where they are with this project, or else I don't feel like I'm leading them very well. It might be your own comfort. Maybe you're thinking somebody else higher up is going to give you a hard time if you actually trust others to do things. Maybe you feel a lot of discomfort in having those things out there being managed and carried out by other people. Maybe you're someone who really likes to be in control and leadership is tough for you. Leadership doesn't need to be that heavy. Ask yourself, what would I have to let go of to trust more fully? Like, the thing is here, trust is not only about teams proving themselves. It begins when you as a leader are willing to examine what makes trust hard for you. And that's what I've hoped to get you started with today. In leadership intelligence, we talk all the time about it's not about stepping so far back that you don't have any awareness about what's going on. It's not about becoming totally hands off. It's actually about your own self-awareness. It's actually about being honest with yourself. Now, we're going to explore this subject a little bit deeper again next week, because trust, like you hand over a project to someone, they're doing the work, but you won't give them ownership of it. That's a clear indicator that you don't trust them. So we're going to dig down into that a little bit deeper next week. So thank you so much for being here. If you've got any questions or comments, pop them on the platform that you're watching this on, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. #replay if you're watching a replay. Now, just as a reminder, I work with individuals and one-on-one coaching. I work with small groups in quick start coaching programs, but I also work with teams within an organization or a business. So if you need help building your trust, building your leadership, or building your communication skills, reach out. The link will be in the comments underneath. Trust. Trust yourself. Give yourself permission to trust your team. Thank you so much. Bye now.